Okay, we are live. You all know the drill. We got to let it breathe just for a couple of seconds. Make sure it's nice and stable for our awesome audience out there in Broncos country. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime and fellow football priest. You know him, you love him. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, I woke up this morning and hopped on Twitter and saw that the players of the NFLPA, I know that sounds kind of ridiculous because it is the Players Association, but the players kind of had a unified social media push this, I think it was, kind of trying to generate some, fan pressure on the NFL, try and curry some favor in the court of public opinion with regard to the ongoing negotiations, between the NFL and the NFLPA. What was your reaction to that blitzkrieg?
Not to pat myself on the back, but they're saying the same thing I said. It's like they want to play, but what are we doing here? Why are they dragging their feet? Why is there no plan in place? It's 9 days now until training camp's supposed to start. Rookies report next week, Chad. We're getting going now, and we don't know anything. All these major macro questions still up in the air. How is testing going to work? How is, isolation going to work? How is distancing going to work? Are there going to be fans in the stands? I mean, I can go down the list of all these questions. They want to play, but they don't want to put their health in danger. They don't want to put their family's health in danger. And I understand that. Listen, they're millionaires, they're athletes, they're world-class celebrities, but they're people first and foremost. And they have families, they have babies, they have wives. They don't want to endanger that. It's not political. It's not, anything other than just doing the right thing for themselves. They want to get out there. But I put myself in their shoes. I'm usually pro-team, Chad. But in this situation, Goodell has totally botched this whole thing. He had the luxury of time, and that luxury has definitely run out by now. I don't understand what they're doing.
Well, I was on the call on Friday with the NFLPA as a member of the Pro Football Writers of America. And they, on one hand, the players, you got the executive director, I can't remember exactly what his title is, DeMaurice Smith. Everyone knows who he is, who been paying attention anyway since 2011 with the lockout. And then you've got the current president of the NFLPA, which is J.C. Tretter, the center for the Cleveland Browns. And they got up on their soapbox and, of course, talked about how concerned they are, risks. They understand there's going to be some risk, but they don't want to go crazy, bringing, as you say, risking bringing the bug into their homes or, their wives and children and whatnot, which is understandable. But the NFL, I should say, has gone to great lengths to basically create new protocols that are in place for the word that shall go unmentioned. We'll say CV. And just being on that call Friday, it felt like more to me what it is not to say that they're not concerned about safety. They are, of course. But at a certain point, everybody knows that unless you're going to be playing in a bubble like the NBA, which is not feasible for the NFL to do that, by the way, but unless you're going to do that, you are opening yourself up to some modicum of risk. No matter how low you mitigate that risk, you're opening yourself up at some level. And what the NFL has done, they believe, is mitigated it down to the lowest possible amount of risk as possible. For the players, obviously that's an issue. But Zach, to me, what seemed like the biggest issue sticking in their craw right now for the players, the union, is they want 21 days of conditioning to open up camp. In other words, their rationale is with an offseason that included no offseason training program, no playing, no walkthroughs, no half-throughs, no just playing in pads, basically. All the stuff that takes place during all three phases of OTAs, as we know, none of that has occurred this year. What they're worried about is in 2011, when with the lockout, which is the closest facsimile situation of what we have with the word that shall go unmentioned, there was I want to say 40-something% increase in lower body injuries in 2011 because players basically went, this is an extreme simplification, but oversimplification, but they basically went from the couch to the field, right? And so there was a lot of lower leg injuries and an increase by somewhere in the 40 percentile. And they want to try to avoid that this year. And they think the players, the best way to do that, Zach, is to have the first 21 days as conditioning. So no football, no plays being run, no quick explosion, no contact, none of that stuff. It's just conditioning for 21 days. Then you get to the walkthroughs and the installs and all that stuff, and then contact and all. Well, the problem with that is you go 3 weeks, you put it linear 3 weeks from July 28th, which is when camp begins, you 100% X out at least 3 of the 4 preseason games, because technically all 4 are still on the schedule right now, which is fine. I think the NFL at the end of the day, they could live with that. But the problem is, Zach, in order to even have a preseason game, it's an exhibition game, but you still need to be able to practice the plays. And if you're waiting 3 weeks before you even get to that point, how are you even going to? So they're holding on the NFL to the vestige of, we want to at least have some kind of a preseason. And the players are just saying, look, forget that. It's all about being in the best position possible to start the regular season.
This is the great debate, though, because owners of teams don't care about players. I hate to put it so bluntly. They don't care about their health. They don't care about their conditioning. They want to have preseason games because they want to make money. They want to earn back some revenue they are going to lose in the regular season. Even if there is full fans in attendance, a lot of people are not going to come to games because of that fear out there, Chad, that fear mongering, that narrative that's out there about CV. So teams are going to lose money, millions upon millions, and collectively the NFL, billions of dollars. Owners want a preseason game for that much. Players want, to have some time. They want things on their terms. But these questions, Chad, I understand it from both sides, but these questions should have been hammered out before July 19th. It's like a kid in school who waits till the last minute. And I can attest to this. I was the same way in school, who waits until the night before a project is due to get it done. And speaking from experience, it never works out. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be hasty. It's going to be just as it goes along. And we don't have what happens if it wipes out a whole defense, a whole quarterback group? What if a coach gets sick? These questions had to have answers. And I give Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, I don't like him. I think he's a horrible commissioner, but he handled these questions head on, Chad. He had answers for everything months before the bubble was even constructed. He wanted to make money and preserve the revenue, and some of it anyway from this season. He wanted to have a resumption, but he didn't wait. He didn't lollygag. He didn't drag his feet. He didn't think that CV was just going to go away. He was prepared for every scenario, where the NFL just kind of ignored it and shut their eyes, closed their ears, and pretended it never happened. I don't buy into so much of the panic like you do, but I also acknowledge it's real, and it's affecting everything in the world right now, sports included. Goodell had 4 months to come up with a plan. It's not easy. Money versus players, and players versus doing what's best for them, and owners. It's complicated. But to wait till 9 days before camp and we have no answers, it's inexcusable for a multi-billion-dollar business.
Well, the thing is, though, accountability on that side goes from the players and the owners at this stage. I think both sides
I agree.
From what I heard on that call, both sides have kind of the situation they're in right now is a result of happen. I think we all, when we were sitting here in April, we were all hoping, we talked about it on this podcast many times, we're all hoping that by the time you get to July, things are a lot calmer with regard to CV, and you're able to move forward with some modicum of normalcy. And while I still think that the league can and will move forward with a modicum of normalcy, there's so many hoops yet still to be jumped through that you worry that, is there enough time to get them done? Now, the good news is, Zach, the NFL season itself, the regular season, we're almost 2 full months away from that. So there's still plenty of time, but you got to be able to have at least a training camp. I understand if you're going to throw out the preseason, if that's how it shakes out, I think every fan right now would gladly dispense with the entire preseason if you knew you were guaranteed a regular season.
Yeah.
If you were guaranteed a regular season. And that's how the players feel right now, but the owners, they're holding on to that. And I don't necessarily think it has to do with only the mighty dollar with the preseason. I think for NFL teams, from the football people, the front office people, to also the CV protocol safety people, they want to have an exhibition style environment, at least one exposure to that, where they can work through all these new kind of running on all cylinders. And so, the football people, they want that preseason because it helps evaluate the roster math, right? It helps them get from 90 to 53, seeing how these players compete on the grass against outside competition. But this is a year where you might have to figure out how to form that 53, Zach, without the benefit of preseason all 22 tape. You're just going to have to go off what you see on the grass, how they behave in meetings, what they retain, how they perform in drills, and the whole 9 yards.
But can we have a roster expansion? Can we have an IR expansion? Can we have a PUP expansion? Can we have a special CV list? I mean, what if there's an opt-out like the NBA players and MLB players were going through in their sports? If players want to opt out, is there a contingency plan in place? Is there going to be a trade deadline this year? Can they add more players in certain? I mean, we don't know any of this right now, Chad. And you're right. I see it from both angles. It's a hard negotiation. That's why the lockout happened in 2011. It's hard. A lot of money on the line, a lot of different factors and preferences on the line. It's not easy to get this done. But again, you had all this time, and we don't know anything right now. We don't know anything on April 19th, May 19th, June 19th, July 19th. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we going on this summer with? Are we going to have 1 game, 4 games, training camp, fans, tests? What is going on? I just want some sort of answer to give me some encouragement that there's going to be a season. I'm with you. I will gladly sacrifice training camp. It's easy for me to stay sitting here, not having to be on the field, not having to be in conditioning. I will gladly sacrifice the summer if it means the fall is intact. But is that going to happen? Are they negotiating toward that? Are they working toward that? Is that the end game? What is going on here? Just give me some sort of clarity, and I'll get off this beating the dead horse.
Let me tell you why I remain absolutely and perfectly confident that there will be a season. Yes, we know these teams, the owners are motivated by that dollar bill. We know that. But guess what the players are also motivated by? The exact same thing. Why do they put themselves through the risk that they do, even in a normal season? I mean, every time a professional football player steps out on the grass, they're taking their lives into their own hands, right? It's a very violent and dangerous sport. Anything can happen. We've seen tragedies take place in the game of football, dating back decades. But here's the thing. If they don't play, if there's no season, what's Von Miller going to make this year? Somewhere around $20 million. Guess how much of that money he sees if there's no season? Justin Simmons, he wants that $11.4 million franchise tag. Guess how much of that he gets if there's no football? Now, the contract stays in place. The contract would still exist come this time next year. You take 2020 and put it on 2021. But what are you going to do between now and then? I mean, a lot can happen in a year's time. So right. I think because they're ultimately motivated by the same things, eventually here in the very near future, you're going to see them, work through some of these things. But it's going to take flexibility on both sides. Both sides are going to have to be willing to come to the table and make some concessions, as it were. But guys, we have a great show planned for you tonight. We're going to talk about something really interesting Justin Simmons said over the weekend. 2 storylines that came out of an appearance Justin Simmons made on Good Morning Football, one of which Zach crushed with aplomb with an article on Friday, and the second of which had to do with Drew Lock that we're going to talk about here tonight as well. But first, gang, just a couple of quick matters of business. We're going to be giving away some swag tonight. Why? Because it's really fun for us. We love being able to give back to our audience, to our Super Chat superstars, and it was so much fun for us last week doing it on Sunday and Monday. We're going to keep it as a theme. We're going to start doing it. Maybe it won't always be Sunday's shows. Maybe it won't always be Monday shows. But we're going to have at least one show per week where we do some giveaways and really engage with you guys and give back. And we're going to be doing that again today. So stay tuned. We'll talk more about that here in just a second. But guys, make sure you're following the podcast on Twitter. The show, the channel, the brand of Mile High Huddle continues to grow exponentially. And we want to make sure our new listeners understand how to connect with us on social media. So on Twitter, @HuddleUpPod. That's how you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with the show in real time. And while you're at it, make sure you follow @MileHighHuddle as well for breaking Broncos news and analysis. If you're in a position, head on over to HuddleUpPod.com. Get your swag on. Get yourself one of these hats, a Football Priest t-shirt, a Mile High Huddle hoodie, State of Being, baby, mugs, face masks. There's a little something for everybody. Men, women, you name it. Go check it out, HuddleUpPod.com. It's a great way to support what we're doing. And if you're not in a position to do that, it's okay. We understand not everyone is in that position to patronize a merch store. These 3 things each and every listener can do. Make sure you're subscribed, especially if you're on YouTube. Like the video and share it out there if you really love what Zach and I are doing for you. All right, Zach, before we dive into the main meat and potatoes of tonight's show, Steven brought up something I think it's worth discussing, kind of a feel-good story. Steve Baumgartner, one of our superstars, who's going to be on the show, not this week, because this week is Eclipse Stormborn coming on Wednesday night. Steven's going to be on the show with us next Wednesday. So, but anyway, Steven says, did you guys see Jerry Jeudy's house? He sounds very humble. Let me show you guys what, in case you missed it, what Stephen is talking about here. It's actually quite inspirational. Hopefully you can see that. He says the meme, it shows him standing outside of his house, folded with his arms folded, and it says, quote, "I remember living in my coach's garage. Now I got a crib with 2 garage. I don't flex, I motivate," which it's just cool, man. I'll be honest with you, I don't know the entire life story of Jerry Jeudy, Zach, but it's just cool to see so many players, come from very meager backgrounds in terms of privilege and, where their families stand, economically, or their parents together, a lot of different obstacles people fight through and overcome in order to just get to college. And then from college to make it to the pros. And when you see someone like Jerry Jeudy finally achieve his dream, man, it's one of the reasons why we love this game.
He caught a lot of flack for his caption on that post for his grammar, but he also people also wondered, how did he buy that? Did he get a signing bonus fronted to him? Where did he get the money to buy that house? But he has no Broncos contract yet. But on the surface, I always love seeing the players buy their mom's houses and buy their dad's cars. It's so on a human level, so enriching and so endearing that these guys aren't just millionaires, aren't just athletes. They're people with big hearts. They love their parents. They love their families. I always like seeing stuff like that. But it did cross my mind, Chad. That house has to be what? 1.5, 2 mil? I mean, it's not cheap living there.
Depends on where he's at, obviously in Denver. But yeah, that's a salient point. Where'd the cheddar come from? Because he hasn't signed his contract. As we talked about, we at least touched on it a little bit last week. No rookie yet has signed, which means no signing bonus has hit that bank account. And that's one thing that'll be different. When I talked about earlier before in the first segment that, how much Von Miller will make this year if there's no season, 0. For players who sign new money deals, their signing bonuses, they will get. Those signing bonuses will come whether there's football or not. So the rookies like Jerry Jeudy, he wants that signing bonus. And he's going to get it, I think, probably next week. They report for training camp, or rookies do anyway, next week. But the only thing I can imagine, Zach, is, he's a grown man. He's been an adult for several years. Maybe he's renting it. He just decided to rent a house. Maybe he purchased it. And if he did, maybe he has some kind of an endorsement deal that we're missing or something. But
it's got to be.
Could even be his agent helping him get the house because he knows the payments coming here it's imminent. But Jerry Jeudy, man, we're all excited to see him in orange and blue and see him out on the grass, which that brings up another storyline we got to get to today at some point. I don't want to start with it, but that is he and Emmanuel Sanders had a little workout video together in which Emmanuel Sanders offered up a little bit of a bold prediction for Drew Lock, Jerry Jeudy, and the Broncos offense. But we're going to get to that. Zach, the first thing I want to start with here is your story from Friday. And then, guys, we're going to get to your super chats. We're going to get to your comments and questions. I promise you. John is on top of that right now as we speak. But I just want to get this story off our chest here really quick. Bear with us one second. All right. So here's the headline first and foremost. Justin Simmons clarifies contentious remark on not signing his long-term deal with the Broncos. Justin Simmons went on, let me close this box here. He went on Good Morning Football on Friday, and here's what he said, quote, "If the Broncos wanted to get a deal done, they would have. And so the reality is another year on the franchise tag is like a contract year all over again. Year 2 in Vic's system with all the weapons that we have, I'm more than confident in myself and what I can do. Moving forward, we'll just have to see. It's a business decision on both ends. Whatever's in my best interest and my family's best interest is always what I'm going to do," close quote. Zach, you had the article, so why don't you drop some knowledge on our listeners? If the Broncos wanted to get a deal done, they would have. We'll talk about what Mike Klis said next, but your thoughts first and foremost on what he had to say.
He's absolutely right. Everything he said there was correct, and I defended him in that article, Chad, because he spoke the truth, but he didn't come off jaded. He didn't come off bitter. He didn't come off resentful. He came off honest, but motivated. I have another article or quote in there in the article. He talks about the talent on the Broncos defense and how Chubb's coming back and Vaughn is rejuvenated and they have all this new secondary pieces. I mean, listen, is he disappointed he didn't get his money long-term? Yeah. Who wouldn't be? He deserves to be paid like a top 3 safety. But the way that Klis spun his comments, Chad, and even the way that around the NFL just took that little bit of his quote out of context and made a story out of it. And for someone like Klis, like I wrote, a 61-year-old mouthpiece of the team doesn't know that, who's been around the NFL for most of his formative life. But, a young 20-something guy in Justin Simmons knows what the NFL is about. He knows what the Broncos wanted to do. He knows what the Broncos would have done in a normal offseason. And on some level, he understands why a deal didn't get done. He didn't say it. He didn't say because of CV. He didn't say because of a weird offseason, revenue losses, salary cap constraints. He knows, though. He's smart and heady and intuitive enough to pick up on that. And for Kliss to say something so divisive, only to take the Broncos' side to further that connection he has with them, I thought it was borderline irresponsible, Chad, for someone like that. It's totally out of context, and it's totally incorrect.
So here's what pissed off Justin Simmons and what Zach's talking about here. Kliss quote tweeted the report from around the NFL that Justin Simmons said if the Broncos wanted to get a deal done, they would have. And here's what Kliss said. This is different from the humble Justin Simmons we know. Strong comment that blames Broncos for no deal.
Right. Where's the blame?
Right. Let's move on. And then here's what Justin Simmons said in response to the Broncos' most notorious, I'll say, insider. All right. As Zach, I love the verbiage you use there, the mouthpiece of the Broncos. Here's what Justin Simmons quote tweeted to Kliss. Quote, "A deal is two-sided. Never single-handedly blamed anyone. Reality is, if it was going to happen, it would have. I'm thankful for another year to play ball and would appreciate you not trying to divide myself and the team." Close quote. Zach nuked him from orbit there.
Yeah. Even that was respectful, though. He could have came back with, an ad hominem or a personal attack on Kliss, but he was right. It takes two to tango in the NFL, and neither the Broncos nor Simmons' agent Todd France wanted to relinquish the proverbial lead in that tango. And that's all it came down to. They wanted to get a deal done. The Broncos offered him good money, but not great money. Simmons has his own value. He had the leverage. He's under contract for one more year. In a normal offseason, this would have gotten done. But like he said, it does take two. He's not blaming anyone. He's pointing out the reality of NFL negotiations. And Kliss knows better than that. To say something that points blame and try to be divisive, I don't understand. And that's why I took umbrage with that in the article. Does this sound like a blameful man? He's talking about how great the Broncos defense is. The season can't get here fast enough, he says. We just need to get back to some football. Now, a guy, if he was mad at the Broncos, if he was pissed off, if he was deflated or disenfranchised, would he make those comments? No, he would not. It's Kliss trying to stir the pot and take the John Elway side. And You know what? It's cute for a while. We all know what Kliss is about. We all know his reputation, but this was wrong, Chad. Simmons is one of the best players on the Broncos team, and he said nothing wrong in his remarks. I blame around the NFL, and I blame Kliss, and I blame the state of the world we're in right now, where one line like that is just ran with. And people just buy it. They get the likes, they get the retweets. That's the way the social media goes. The full story is often lost, and it was with Justin Simmons. And I was glad personally I got to kind of, tell his side or defend Simmons in this battle between him and Mike Kliss.
Absolutely. Let me grab Christian real quick, one of our superstars, first super chat of the night.
Thank you, Christian.
We're grabbing here. I think I missed one. I'm going to go grab it from Eclipse Stormborn here in just a second. But Christian, a reminder, you must have missed this, but we haven't heard from you. You were one of the winners of the drawing. It was either Sunday or Monday last week of pick what you want on the merch store. Let us know what you want, and we'll ship it out to you. We still haven't heard from you on that. So reach out to us, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. Let us know what you want on the merch store at huddleuppod.com, and we'll get that coming to you, my friend. Thank you for the support. He says, do you believe Simmons will get his contract taken care of next offseason?
Yes.
Zach, how are you feeling about the state of what that might be?
He's going to get a contract, whether it's from the Broncos or another team, Chad. He's a premier elite safety in the NFL already at 26 years old, and he's still getting better. He's already a top 3 guy. So if the Broncos don't pay him, which I think they will, he's not going to be franchised again. Another team will come and open up the checkbook. I do believe his contract will get taken care of. Will it be $15 million a year? I don't know. Is it going to reset the safety market? That's going to depend on what Simmons does this season. If he has an encore of 2019, he is going to get a lot of freaking money. If he has kind of a down year, which the Broncos are hoping for, they're going to save some money, a few bucks, be able to sign him back again. But regardless, one way or the other, Simmons will get paid next offseason. And that's the only reason why. He knows that, Chad. It's the only reason why he would turn down, I'm assuming, 12 a year, because he's holding out in the long run for 15, 16 a year, and he'll get it.
He'll get it from some team. I mean, like I
Yep.
said, I think it was last week. If Justin Simmons was on the open market in March, if he hadn't been franchise tagged, he would have got $15 million a year from some team. Some team would have given him that. And the Broncos had a chance to keep him locked down long term. And I'm not looking to point fingers here. It does take two to tango, as you talk about, Zach, but they had their chance where they could get him locked down without having to compete. I mean,
should have just did it last year.
He could end up getting 16, 17 when you factor in the demand. If you got multiple suitors coming in, it drives the price up. So the Broncos had a chance to negotiate with him purely one-on-one. They'll have a chance to do that again next year if they want to franchise tag him again. But then you start perhaps disrupting this goodwill that I think Justin Simmons genuinely still has for the Broncos, even though a deal was unable to get done. Eclipse Stormborn, bona fide superstar. He's coming on the show Wednesday night. Dropped a super, and I'm sorry that the chat jumped over it, my friend. So we're just doing it the old-fashioned way. He says, Drew, all the buzz, Lockyear, hashtag Locksyear, hashtag the buzz. Thank you, my friend. We're going to talk about what Simmons had to say about Drew Lock, and I think, I guess we might as well do that now. So actually, first, though, I wanted to just read this quote. You referenced it, Zach, in one of your early remarks here on this topic, but
yeah.
I wanted to, for context on how Justin Simmons is viewing this season, what his outlook is really like, read this quote. He said, quote, "You're talking about Von Miller. Bradley Chubb is coming back. Jarrell Casey. We got Shelby Harris, Alexander Johnson, Todd Davis, myself, Kareem Jackson, AJ Bouye, Bryce Callahan is coming back. We've just got so many weapons around the board. And we're talking about year 2, guys feeling comfortable in the Vic Fangio system. I can't say enough good things about our defense. You talk about a motivated defense at that. Guys willing to prove themselves. I'm excited. The season can't get here fast enough. We just need to get back to some football," close quote. So he's champing at the bit to get back to playing some football. There, two sides still have some business to do in terms of the NFLPA and NFL, as we discussed at the top of the show. But he is geeked up about what this defense can do in its second year under Fangio.
And let me point out something. Do you see all the times he said, "we are," the way he referenced the Broncos? He didn't say the Broncos. He didn't say Denver. He didn't say they. Do you remember Von Miller's contentious negotiations, Chad? He cropped Elway out of an Instagram post. I mean, that's what happens when a player is resentful or blameful in negotiations. Justin Simmons is not. And I see some question in here that why would the Broncos be hoping that Simmons has a down year? Because even a down year for Justin Simmons is still a top 6, 7 safety in the NFL. And they'll pay him regardless because they'll be saving money if he has a quote-unquote down season. But this is a guy, based on everything he said in the real proper context, he is not mad. He is not holding grudges. He is not, looking for a way to get out of Denver. He's motivated, just like Phillip Lindsay. He doesn't hate the Broncos, but he knows what he's capable of. He wants to get paid, and he has a big chip on his shoulder now to show the Broncos and the entire NFL how good he really is.
All right, we're going to get to this Emmanuel Sanders story. First, though, we got to grab Terry's super chat, showing some love. Bonafide superstar north of the 49th parallel, proving that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is a hashtag state of being. He says, "Sweet axe." Appreciate you, Terry. We also have Zach George jumping in, the biggest Queensryche fan on the planet Earth, one of the biggest Broncos fans, and a bona fide MHH Mount Rushmore member here. He says, "Back from a very hot, exhausting weekend in the Poconos. Just showing some love." Appreciate that, George. Means a lot to us, my friend, as I think you know. Terry as well, real quick. He says, "Brooding eyes, luscious hair."
Thank you, Terry.
Terry's going to be on 2 weeks from today, so it's going to be fun.
Can't
The 7th, 2 weeks from Wednesday, the 7th Superstar segment is reserved for Terry, so we're looking forward to talking with him. It's going to be a gas. We also got Mark jumping in, showing some love on Super Chat. Appreciate you, my friend. He says, "Just wanted to say what's up, my guys. You all have a good night, my Bronco family. Hashtag football priest, huddle up pod, MHH." Awesome, dude. It's good to see you, Mark, and Terry and George and all you guys. All right, we're going to get back. I know there's other questions. There's other super chats stacked up. But, Zach, real quick, since we're still on the topic of Justin Simmons, I want to grab this quote. In that same conversation, he was asked by I can't remember which of the Good Morning Football crew asked him this. So but it's besides the point. He says, look, there's a lot of hype, which I don't exactly agree with, in the national media about Drew Lock. We've seen one or two national perspective guys like Colin Cowherd. I'm trying to think now off the top of my head who's another one. Either way, it's been few and far between. By and large, when you look at power rankings of the Denver Broncos in relation to the other 31 teams in 2020 and lists in terms of where does Drew Lock rank in terms of the starting quarterbacks, from the national perspective, it's been lackluster for the most part. But still, there is a sense of hype in Denver anyway, right? There is these raised expectations. Everybody's excited. And so he was asked, Justin Simmons, whether or not the hype is justified, if it's getting out of control, if he's being Drew Lock pumped up too much. And here's what Simmons said, quote, I don't think you're pumping him up, maybe not even enough. In other words, saying that, I don't think you're pumping him up enough. I saw it in the locker room. In those 5 games he was playing, even when he was starting to get back, he was taking reps against the first-team defense. It didn't matter. There was that type of swag. And like I said, a lot of it is just confidence, not even cockiness. You know, he just goes out there. He knows his abilities, and he knows what he can do, and he delivers. So 5 games, 4-1, had a whole offseason to really prepare for this. And so, like I said, I really think Drew is going to step into his own this season, and I'm excited for him. Close quote. The thing I like the most about that, Zach, is he said he knows his abilities. He knows what he can do. He talked about the swagger, the confidence, and he delivers. That's the crucial part here, is he delivers. We talked about this I've done it multiple written articles comparing him to the other rookies from 2019, the other rookie quarterbacks. The one thing he did that none of them that could say is his impact showed up in the standings, Zach. His impact showed up by virtue of the Broncos going into week 13 when he was the starting quarterback, when he started his first game, with a combined 3 wins that Joe Flacco and Brandon Allen were able to scrap together. And they finished with 7 wins by virtue of Drew Lock. Now, it wasn't just Lock, because Lock, being the dynamic quarterback that he is, like true quarterbacks should do in the NFL, he's that tide. He raised all ships. The team started playing better when he was inserted. So your reaction, though, to what he said, that maybe he's not getting pumped up enough, I mean, that's quite the testimonial from Justin Simmons.
2 things jump out. Again, if he was mad at the Broncos, that would have been a stock answer. His quote would have been half of that paragraph, Chad. So obviously he's still very, very much invested in Denver, and he's treating negotiations for what they are. It's him and his agent versus John Elway and Rich Hurtado in the front office. It's not Justin Simmons versus the Broncos. Second of all, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but maybe is this kind of a shot at Paxton Lynch, a guy who had all the hype and never delivered, whereas Drew Lock has, he had a little hype last year and delivered on that and then some. And going into this season, I'm with Justin Simmons. He's kind of also a shot at all the people who are counting out the Broncos and hating on the Broncos. It's true. Drew Lock does not get enough hype. The things he did last year for rookie quarterback, coming in cold, coming off an injury, it was phenomenal. To me, he looked better than Kyler Murray at times. And Murray was the offensive rookie of the year. So I'm fully with Justin Simmons there. He's not getting enough hype. The Broncos are not getting enough hype. They read it. They feel it. They see it. I said this before. Why I say let him hate and all that? They see it. They feel it. They absorb it. It's on their bulletin board. It's in their mind. It's in their memory. They're not forgetting that. And Justin Simmons is giving it back to those haters, giving it back to those detractors, saying, listen, we're a legit team. Lock's a legit quarterback, and you're going to see in 2020, the Broncos are for real.
Amen, my friend. We got Dave Darlington, Cali Dave, jumping in, one of our superstars. Really appreciate you, my friend. He says, procrastination, speaking to the negotiations between the NFL and NFLPA, the first step of failure. And I mean, it reminds me of my teenage sons, right? Their whole philosophy on life is, why do today what you can always do tomorrow, right? I'm constantly battling against that philosophy. But just like in player negotiations, right? What moves the needle? When the rubber meets the road, when does the deal get done, Zach? When you're up against the deadline. When the deadline comes, I mean, not to say that deals don't happen outside of that. They do, but they're the exception, not the rule. And the same rule governs what's going on here. The players in the league have basically 9 more days. I think he's right, Zach, is 28th is a Tuesday, and they report. So I think this week, probably right up against the weekend, is when you're going to see some kind of news break in terms of a deal getting agreed to here. And Zach, David Kilgore jumping in as well.
Thank you so much.
Love. Mount Rushmore member. Appreciate you, David. We look forward to one day being able to get you on the show and talk to you. He says, would the NFL do like the NBA and play all in Orlando? What do you guys think? Really want to thank you guys for having this pod. Great job. Thank you, David. Here's why that won't work for the NFL model. NBA teams, there's only 22. How many are in the NFL? 32. That's not the only reason why it wouldn't work. You've got, 35 players and coaches, 35 people total that an NBA team needs in order to function. 35 times 22. I don't have a calculator in front of me, and math's not my strong suit, but figure it out. Combined with the NFL, for an NFL team, Zach, you have 53 players plus the practice squad. That's 63. Then you throw in all the coaches and the equipment people and all that stuff, and it becomes astronomical. Where are you going to put all those people? You couldn't put over 5,000 people, which is what it would take to get all 32 teams into a bubble in one hotel. You couldn't get it into two, probably into maybe three, but that's beside the point. It's just a much more, it's a Leviathan. Not to say the NBA is small potatoes, it's not, but in terms of the NFL, it's just not apples to apples. So that is not something, Zach, I could ever see being a viable solution for the NFL and the NFLPA, which is why they got to get this thing done.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is to me. It's that there's way too many people and coaches and players and personnel. They'd have to have multiple bubbles in multiple cities. And here's the other difference, Chad. The NBA season was in full swing. They're resuming their season, whereas the NFL hasn't even started their season yet. The NBA is just doing the playoffs and having a quick little, amended championship finals, best of 7, I think. I don't know how it's even going to work. But a bubble would never work for the NFL. It's apples and bowling balls. The NFL, they want to make it normal, and I applaud what they've done this offseason through free agency and the draft. Everything was normal. But then time caught up to them, and the surging in cases caught up to them, and they have not adjusted since then. So a bubble won't work, and if it did, they'd already be in one. It's an easy solution. It's just not practical for the NFL in real life.
Right. In a perfect world, it sounds great, and it sounds like a common sense solution. Put them in the bubble, cut them off from exposure and all that. But in the NFL, it's just not going to work. Not only that, the NFL remains committed, the players as well, to having some fans in the stands. So you can't do that in a bubble. But let me jump down here real quick. Timothy says, why don't people see the leadership of Locke? He learned from Peyton Manning, and having practices on high school fields. Plus, he knows the offense, but didn't know a cheap, Skangs offense, I think is what you might be saying there, Timothy. But the thing I want to touch on, and the reason I pulled up this comment, Zach, the question, why don't people see the leadership of Locke? The Broncos do, but that's one of the things that the national media right now are missing. All they saw was the week 14, 38-24 beatdown of the Houston Texans. That's really all they're really taking away from that 5-game audition, and the fact that he was a rookie, and the fact that he spent 11 weeks on IR, and the fact that it was a small sample size. Just know that the Broncos, they understand the leadership of Locke. Even Justin Simmons, that's something we've heard him talk about before, and other players. It's one of his strong suits, and he's a guy that, honestly, he's not a dictator type leader, and I say that in the best sense of the word, like Peyton Manning is like, you better get in line. And, this, if you want to touch the ball and you're a wide receiver in this offense, you better get in line and do the things I want you to do. That worked great for Peyton, but that's not the type of leader Drew Lock is. And Drew Lock's young. He can't really dictate like that anyway. He has to lead by being a magnetic personality, by being accountable for his own play, by trying to lift up his teammates, and then delivering on the field, the D word that Justin Simmons talked about, Zach, in his comment.
Chad, you nailed it. You hit it on the head. You named all the becauses, which are true. I'm going to just throw one more out there. Because he's on the Broncos. If he was on the Patriots, he would be not a household name, but he'd have a lot more hype going into 2020. If he was Aaron Rodgers back up in Green Bay and he made 5 starts last year and went 4-1, he would have all the hype in the world. Because the Broncos haven't been relevant since 2015, because they've been counted out, they've been kind of crappy the last couple years, he doesn't have that same exposure, but he will. This is why I keep saying, let them hate, let them count him out, let them criticize him, let them not believe in the Broncos, because come September and through January, they will all see the truth.
All right, John, let's pull one of those names out of the hat, my friend. Let's give away. And here's what we're giving away tonight, guys. I have in my possession a brand new, unused, just straight out of the box, Huddle Up Podcast, #football priest Hat, the same hat you see Zach and I wear on every podcast.
Very comfortable.
Very, very, and stylish, and just it's the business. So we're gonna be giving one of those away. John's gonna run it through the old internet machine he found. Oh, we got a result. Let's see what we got here. Is that a real handle, John?
Yeah,
or if that's someone's real handle.
I think it is. Yeah, he's in the chat stream.
That's not a name I recognize. But nevertheless, let's put it in here. Give him some props. He's here. No way, man. Is the winner. Chicken dinner.
No way.
Giveaway. Okay. This hat, it's going to you. No way, man. If you like to claim your prize, all we need you to do is reach out, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. Or if you're connected with either Zach or myself or John on social media, you can DM us, and we need your personal deets. We need your shipping address, and we'll get this hat out to you. So thank you for being with us live. Thank you for supporting MHH and the Huddle Up podcast. And we look forward to sending you out this hat, my friend.
Yeah, forgive me if I'm wrong, Chad. I don't recognize his name. He seems like a newer contributor to the podcast, so it's good timing. Good timing. No way, man. We hope you like the hat, and we appreciate your support. We'll get that out to you as soon as possible.
Zach, one of our superstars, has a really good question, and Zach's going to be on the podcast in the month of August. We don't have the date exactly hammered down, but we have one of those Wednesdays reserved for Zach's web design. He says, if no football season, does contracts stay intact or do they expire like a normal season? I'm asking because of Philip Lindsay. So my understanding, and this was something I talked to someone very knowledgeable on this topic today, in fact, no, whatever the contract is right now. So if you're locked down contractually, and let's say you're Philip Lindsay and you're going into your third season, okay? And there's no season this year. There's no 2020 campaign. That third season gets paid forward into 2021. So 2021 then becomes your third year and the third year of your contract. So again, what that translation is that unless you came into new money this offseason by virtue of being a draft pick or a free agent signing, or you got an extension, if none of those three things, if you can't say that didn't come with a signing bonus, guess what? You're not getting any money this year. You're getting $0. So that's why the Broncos and the NFL Players Association, they want to play this year. They want their money. Yeah. They know that their playing careers are finite. They know that it's a race against father time from the second they step into the league. They don't want to risk wasting a whole year, many of which, most of the league, it's their prime years. They don't want to waste a year of that. So, and they want that money. They want to earn. That's the whole reason why they put themselves through, the attrition that they do on a year in, year out basis, is they want that cheddar, Zach.
Yeah, and you know what? Things are constantly changing, Chad. I can't profess to know every possible outcome of what's going on next year in terms of the salary cap, in terms of players' contracts. They don't even know. The NFL doesn't know. The union doesn't know. The players don't know. This is one other thing that's up in the air. All I have heard, though, is that the NFL has proposed, I believe, a $70 million reduction in the salary cap for 2021. And the owners are fine taking that hit, but the players want to spread that out over the course of 3, 4, 5 years. They want their money too, and the owners want to preserve their money as well. It all comes down to that, Chad. We can talk about competitiveness and wanting to be successful, wanting to win games. It all comes down, like everything else in life, to money. And the sooner they can meet in the middle about money matters, the sooner we'll have football with a plan in place.
This is funny. Zach, hopefully, I'm sure you saw this, but as James across the pond, bona fide superstar, MHH OG here says, didn't you hear, Bona? Chad Kelly can outrun every quarterback in the NFL apart from Lamar Jackson. So in case you missed it, I'm not going to go find the tweet and show it to you. You can go find Chad Kelly on Twitter, but he did try and flex, saying he's the fastest quarterback in the NFL, exempting, of course, Lamar Jackson, which, look, Chad Kelly is a lot more talented, I think, than the NFL world at large gives him credit for. $1 million arm, nickel head, but the fastest quarterback not named Lamar Jackson, give me a break.
He can't outrun a vacuum cleaner. He's going to outrun Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray.
Sorry, do that again, John.
It's not going to happen.
It's not. John, I accidentally, whatever you put on. Oh, here's what he meant to say. It's like you didn't hear of Kyler Murray, Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. You could even throw in the likes of Blaine Gabbert, Brett Hundley, even Cam and RG3 if healthy. So Yeah, Chad Kelly doing his level best to stay in the conversation as a fourth string quarterback currently for the Indianapolis Colts. And what's so ironic, Zach, is he was literally, that snafu where he showed up wasted in someone's house
Halloween party.
happened on Halloween night.
What
He
is
was
going
2
on?
weeks away, Zach. If he wouldn't have done that,
Yeah.
he was 2 weeks away from the Broncos saying, look, we whiffed on Keenum. This just isn't working. Let's see what we got in old Chad Kelly. He was about to get his shot. So anyway, Stu jumping in, Zeus McPeak himself.
Stu.
Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, Stu.
And I do want to talk to you. So I know it's a weekend and everything, but hit me up. Let's connect tomorrow. Stu's given me some advice. We saw his command center in person. You guys did too, but he gave us a little bit more of a tour, and we're trying to. I need some advice. I got to figure out a way to upgrade my internet, which I already did once, like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, but still too many times. I mean, I more than quadrupled my bandwidth and speed, and yet it's still occasionally giving us trouble. So Stu's going to give us some insight there. All right, Zach. We have a few more supers that are stacked up. And real quick, I want to give a shout out here to Montana Baldwin on Twitter, watching the show live. Good to have you.
See you.
We want to include Facebook. We want to include Twitter. We want to include everybody here. I want to talk about Emmanuel Sanders. But first, we got to really say thank you to Bobby.
Holy smokes.
Is showing some very big love on Super Chat.
It's incredible.
And it's a very small, Zach, and elite group of our superstars and community in the MHH
that's amazing
YouTube community that has shown that level of generosity in an individual super chat. And just know, Bobby, that it really blows our mind. It's very humbling. I mean, I wish there was a way that we could show you how much it means to us and express to you how much it means to us. But I don't care if we're going to get the trolls, Zach, that are going to say, "I'll get back to talking football. We don't want to hear from your superstars. Talk about the Broncos." I don't care about those people.
Stay mad. No.
Go stay mad. Exactly. Go find another podcast. That's not all this podcast is about. Yes, we're talking Broncos. Yes, we're talking NFL. That consumes the majority of our programming and our conversation on a pod-to-pod basis. But it's also what makes our podcast unique, and what makes us keep coming back for more is the community aspect of this podcast and engaging with each other, and just outpouring to support like this, Zach. It's just unbelievable. She says, "Hi, Chad and Zach. You guys rock. Thank you for all you do. Sorry I can't show up as much as I want to, but I will when I can. Love Broncos Talk and MHH family as always. Go Broncos." It just
amazing.
Seriously almost brings a tear to my eye. Thank you, Bobby.
Bobby, if you just made that comment without the donation, we would appreciate that the same. But the level of significant contribution you make to the show, just with your interaction and, of course, how generous you are, like Chad said, it blows us away. It's really, truly incredible in the very literal sense of the word. Thank you so much.
Much love to you, my friend. And we're glad to have you in the stream. We're glad to have you in the community.
That's right.
And Bobby's actually still, she's settled in, obviously, but she's one of the newer members of the community. I want to say, Zach, just shortly after it was either free agency or the draft is when I remember her beginning to engage in the chat stream and all that. So we're just happy to have you, Bobby, and appreciate you more than we can say. Thank you. All right, Zach, a few more supers that are in the chat stream, but I want to grab this Emmanuel Sanders story. He, of course, connected with him. Obviously, he probably still has a home in Denver, right? He spent 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and half of 19. So 5.5 years he spent in Denver. And so I'm sure he still keeps his home here. And even if he's not here, living here primarily, he got a chance to connect with Jeudy. And I would just say, go find Jeudy and watch this video if you want to see some of the routes they were running and stuff. But it captures what appears to be a private conversation, just, two dudes talking. And basically what Sanders says is, quote, this is Sanders talking to Jeudy, "I'm looking forward to seeing y'all boys play. In his second year," he's talking about Drew Lock, "if he do what he did last year, it's going to be special." Close quote from Emmanuel Sanders, which, I think in a sense he's going, man, I suffered through all those depredations when we were stuck in the quarterback desert post Super Bowl 50, the Simeons, the Paxtons, the Keenums, the Flaccos. And then you deal me away to San Francisco, and he wanted out. But I missed Drew Lock by a month. So he's probably wondering, man, what would it be like? But still, he's giving some props to his old team.
Yeah, and it just shows again that even these ex-players, if they have a problem with John Elway or the front office, it's limited to that. Even the ex-players can look back at their former team and say, listen, Drew Lock is something. The Broncos are something. They're going to be good this year. And it might be FOMO in Emmanuel Sanders' case, but he went on. He almost won a title with the Niners. He's playing with Drew Brees in New Orleans now. He's done pretty well for himself, Chad, considering how his Broncos tenure ended. But I'd be the same way. I'd be like, listen, I had to suffer through all these horrible quarterbacks for 3 years, and you finally get a good one, you trade me away. It's just cool to see the legend of Locke grow, though, with each and every comment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he might wonder what it would be like to – I mean, he got a chance to spend time around Locke. I wouldn't quite say play with Locke, because when he was – even in training camp, when Locke was active and present, he wasn't getting first-team reps, really. He might have gotten a few here and there now that I think about it. So, but still – Sanders was mostly catching passes from Joe Flacco last summer when Locke was a rookie. Let's grab Mike Evans, one of our bona fide superstars, who is going to be on the show in the very near future. I don't think we have a date locked down, but I replied to you, Mike, in our last email correspondence. So check that out when you get some time. Really appreciate your generosity, as always, my friend. And glad to hear that the missus is doing okay. He says, who do you think will be the MVP on defense in 2020? Zach, my answer is this. If it's anyone other than Von Miller this year, I'm worried. It's got to be Von. Von's got to get back to being Von. And if that happens, he's the I think it's your phrase, right? The straw that stirs the drink.
Did you see what he looks like, Chad? If he doesn't win it, because of what he's an animal. He's a monster now. He looks like the Hulk. I mean, he is bulked up. He's all muscle. He looks imposing, intimidating. I wouldn't want to be a quarterback he's facing this season, Chad. And you and I both believe we're going to see the old Von, not the 2019 Von. We're going to see the 2015, 2016 Von. And that's why he's going to be the MVP with, 15, 16 sacks. It's going to be fun to watch this season.
Amen. All right, we're at 52 minutes, so let's mosey through these final few super chats, rapid fire. I did just barely check it, Terry, and appreciate the donation. Terry's digging up old info on my band from college. I spent about 10 years playing in a band, and for a couple of those years, we hit the road and toured and did some fun stuff, put out some records. But yeah, Terry, I saw that. Thanks, buddy. Now I know what you meant. Nice axe. Okay, I get it now. I'm a little bit slow on the uptick with some of these things. That's why we need Zach here to translate. But appreciate you, Terry, as always, my friend. All right. Dang, Mundungus.
The wizard.
The wizard jumping in from the top rope.
Wow.
Just unbelievable, dude. What is that? 3 for 3? Like the last 3 podcasts? You don't have to do that, my friend. I mean, it means everything to us, and it motivates us, and it just keeps our nose to the grindstone and excited to continue bringing you this content. And it's going to be a million times better once we actually get some cleats on the grass, and we're still optimistic that's going to happen here very soon. And it's just going to be all the more fun. The conversation is going to be all the more fire. It's going to be great. Dang, Mundungus, dude, you're blowing our minds over here, bro.
Yeah, it's last couple pods, Mundungus. You've been absolutely incredible. I hope your mom had a great birthday. And I can tell you right now, and Chad can attest to this, you have a one-way ticket to Mount Rushmore. You're up on the clouds. You're on there. You're a superstar. Not only for the donation, just your interaction with us, your support with us. It means everything. The last 3 pods, like Chad mentioned, it's just been, there's no words. It's been incredible. Thank you so, so much.
Also, I went on your website because there's a book that I'm going to buy called Gridiron Genius by Michael Lombardi. Or is it Lombardo? Anyway, I couldn't find it. So if you have that, let me know, dude. And I'll buy it. Appreciate you, my friend. He says, what's up, guys? Who is the most exciting player on the Broncos that is flying under the radar? I think there are a few players that qualify as under the radar from like a national perspective. but I would say,
I mean, Locke, Phillip
yeah,
Lindsay, Cortland Sutton. I mean, pretty much all the Broncos are flying under the radar. Bradley Chubb, he's being kind of counted out because he didn't play last year. Bryce Callahan, if he really exists, Chad, he was great in Chicago before he hurt his foot. He's being, written off, including by us, admittedly. A lot of Broncos are being underrated because they don't get that national hype.
I'm going to throw out a name, though, in terms of amongst Broncos fans, flying under the radar, or someone you might not expect to make a sizable impact who could this year, is the 7th-round pick, Derek Tuska. I think he has a chance to be Shaq Barrett caliber backup rotational edge rusher. He's going up against Malik Reed. He's going up against Justin Hollins, who was a 5th-round pick last year. It'll be interesting to see how that competition takes shape. But he's a player that is not – don't sleep on him because he's a 7th-round pick. This dude is a beast, and I can't wait to see what he can do, especially once you get him into the same room, in the same locker room, same drills with Vaughn and Chubb and, learning from those guys. I'm really curious to see Derek Tuska.
Along the same line, Sternad as well, who we both believe will be a starter by midseason or a little later after that, taking over for Todd Davis next to A.J. Johnson. There's a lot of names out there. I mean, Reisner even, he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler, if not all-pro. All of these Broncos players were underrated, Chad. You could even talk about the undrafted guys, Bassey, Coleman, Bellamy. I mean, those three have a chance of making the roster and playing significant snaps. But a large majority, unless you're Von Miller or Justin Simmons or maybe even A.J. Bouye, they're all being underrated. And you know what? Again, hashtag, let them hate.
Let them hate, baby. All right, let's grab. And another name, we've talked about him a little bit. It's a college free agent to keep an eye on is Asang Bassey, the corner from Wake Forest that went undrafted. He's another guy that I think, depending on how training camp actually shakes out, you'll hear some buzz about him. If we get a chance to see these players in the preseason, I think you'll see quite quickly why Asang Bassey is a DB to, he'll be a force to be reckoned with when it comes down to the final roster math. All right, David Kilgore jumping back in. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, David.
He says, have you guys heard anything about college football? Is there going to be a college season? There is, I think, going to be a college season, Zach, and I think it's going to be it sounds like the SEC, they're playing. Now, some of these conferences aren't going to do out-of-conference games. They're just going to keep it in conference, which doesn't make any sense to me. But nevertheless, if you're going to play a game, if you're going to play a conference game, what's the difference of playing a non-conference game? I mean, I don't understand it, but there are some – I think it was the Ivy League recently just announced they're out. They're not playing sports this year. But I think we're going to get college football on some level. There's a lot less clarity there, though, than there is on the NFL side because it is college. And so you got one foot in the educational arena. And with education comes a lot of other considerations and red tape and different things that aren't a part of the equation for the Broncos or the NFL.
Plus the scouting aspect as well. I mean, these players want to have, one eye on the redshirt juniors or seniors that want to have one eye on the NFL next year, and they might want to be put in a position where they might get sick and have to miss out on their NFL dreams. I don't know about college football. It might be truncated, Chad. It might be just a shortened season, but leagues like the Ivy League, they're not going to play maybe fine, but SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, those conferences are printing cash. They are money machines, and it would take a bubonic plague for them not to play football this fall. We're going to have college football, like Chad said. We're not experts in that domain. We're more on the NFL side, obviously. There will be a season. It's just trickier, too, because the players don't get paid. These are student athletes, and they don't really have much incentive to risk their health and their family's health for no money.
All right, let's grab Kenneth Booker, who always has a good question. What are some players that made great first impressions, and what are some players that made horrible first impressions? Don't need bad impressions. Name, just examples. So this brings up something I've talked about this on the podcast before, but Noah Fant was someone who, when we got a chance to talk to him at the Combine, Zach, he rubbed me the wrong way. Let me just put it that way. And maybe it was because, just in contrast to his Iowa teammate, TJ Hawkinson, he just came off as Hawkinson stood up there and wept openly in front of a throng of media and cameras about his coach Ferentz there at Iowa, and just very, I don't know. He was just humble and earnest. And not to say that Fant wasn't earnest or sincere, but for whatever reason, I'm going to be the number one tight end. I'm going to run the fastest 40. I'm the best. It just rubbed me the wrong way. But then here's where the story turns. I realized after he got to Denver and seeing him play and listening to him there that my initial impression was 100% wrong. He's a great kid and he's very humble in his own right, but he's also supremely confident in his own talents. And you know what? Sometimes if it's to be, it's up to me. That's a truth. Okay. And you have to will it. It's like the Secret. If any of you have ever read that book, you have to believe it's going to happen. You got to telegraph that. Yes, to the universe. And that's what he did. He was, maybe he didn't end up being the first tight end off the board. It was his teammate Hawkinson who went, quite early, but still he proved to be, by the time it was all said and done, 2020, the most productive rookie tight end in the class. And he set some franchise records in Denver. So that's one example of a first / great first impression. I don't know if you got anything to add there, Zach. We're getting long.
Great first impression was Reisner, Chad. We both looked at each other at the combine and thought, this guy is a stud. He's humble, he's confident, he's talented, and I so badly wanted him to land in Denver. So great first impression. Bad first impression, Paxton Lynch. Come on. I mean, that's too obvious. That's a layup right there.
Dude, I still think of that goofy social media.
The dab, yeah.
Goodness gracious. Appreciate you, Terry. As always, you jump back in. State of being, football priest. Love you, bro. Glenn jumping in, one of our superstars, the proud owner of a very balls out man cave, Bronco man cave. He says, nice to hear Emmanuel say positive things. The 2 10s together. Jeudy's already the real deal. Can't wait. Hashtag state of being, hashtag locked and loaded. That's a good point. That's something I brought up in the written article. But Jeudy is taking on the mantle of the number 10 jersey in Denver, which, of course, was Emmanuel Sanders. But Judy's going to carry that on.
Do you know who Emmanuel didn't mention, though, Chad, in his complimentary praise? And that was Courtland Sutton. Remember the dust-up they had in training camp? I don't think he's wishing Courtland Sutton well, but he's definitely wishing the Broncos well. And he sees, like Chad Ochocinco does, the talent that Jerry Jeudy is. And he just wants him to do well. He's supporting his former team. But there's a limit, I think, on the support and the emotional investment that Emmanuel Sanders has for the Broncos.
You wonder, I mean, the thing I remember about that dust up is that Sanders was quoted as saying something effective. You haven't proven S in this league. Yeah. You haven't proven, because he's entering his second year. How much that motivated Sutton to prove him wrong, we'll never know. Maybe he would have become that 1,100-yard Pro Bowler in year 2 that he ultimately became without that dust up or that negative motivation from Emmanuel Sanders. But I'll always wonder. Mundungus, dude, bro.
I got nothing. That's mind-blowing.
Oh, my goodness.
Speechless. Mundungus. To follow up with that, when we just praised you for your last donation and told you how incredible you are, you did not have to do that. Just chat. There's no words. Our community is amazing.
Hey, this is something that we do in this community, which is, if someone's got something going on that's, they're battling something or something's going on, we talk about it. We keep each other in our thoughts and prayers if we're supporting each other. Also, just like our friend DAW, Discount Audio and Wills, if there's a business, whether it's brick and mortar, whether it's an internet business, we want to draw people's eyeballs to that. We want to support it as well. And that's why I'll say that if you are a reader out there, you want to check out Mundungus's bookstore. And I'm going to put the link here in the chat stream, but really appreciate you, my friend. You really don't have to do that. And he says, you might think that I'm way too optimistic, but after seriously looking at all the possibilities on the roster, I see the Broncos going 11-5. The Wizard has spoken. Hey, dude, that was my way too early prediction, Zach.
I wouldn't be shocked, Chad. Am I expecting 11-5? No. But if things break a certain way, if Locke takes 2 steps forward, not just 1 step forward, they have the talent, they have the coaching, they have an easier schedule. If the stars align, this could be the surprise team and the year of Drew Locke. And if it's the year of Drew Locke, they will be a 10-11 win team. So it's not that out of the ordinary to think something like that could happen.
We got BG jumping in. Really appreciate you, my friend, and OG of this podcast, showing some love on Supers. Good to see you, my friend, as always. And also James saying across the pond, really appreciate that super
Thank you,
chat
James.
as well. I think Sir Terry is trying to say you're a rock star, Chad. Great pod as always, gents. Hashtag nice axe. Hashtag Zach's bookcase fund. Hashtag Broncos world. Hashtag state of beat. Appreciate that, James. John, let's give away one more. Let's give away one more hat here. Let's pull a name if you still have that open. And Terry, talking about Justin Sternad, the rookie 5th-round linebacker out of Wake Forest as well. Does he equal Kyle Van Noy? I can see the comparison on some level, but I think Van Noy, who can play off ball and edge, I think Sternad's more of just a straight up off ball linebacker. And in a perfect world, like, in a 4-3 linebacker, 4-3 scheme, he's like a quintessential will linebacker. He's Wesley Woodyard. For those of you who can go back to like the 08 through 2012-ish Broncos, he would thrive in that, where he's not necessarily the one primarily taking on blockers. He can just kind of play on the outside, play on the edges, and just run around and make plays. And, also no slouch in the coverage department.
That's my thing. Yeah, I don't want to draw any comparisons for Sternad. I want to see him play a couple snaps at the NFL level with the Broncos before I do that. Van Noy, though, was much better in run support than he was in pass coverage, where Sternad can be the cure to the Broncos' longtime Achilles heel, guarding tight ends, guarding running backs, helping out in pass coverage. That ability and that talent paired with A.J. Johnson, an inside linebacker, that is the future of that position. And no matter who he turns out to be, Kyle Van Noy or whoever, you're going to be in good hands once he gets up to speed, Chad Sternad, and starts in this defense.
Okay, we got one last giveaway. John has ran the names. Everyone who's been live in this stream with us, their names get pulled and put into the machine.
Very deserving
winner.
Very deserving.
David Kilgore. Winner, chicken dinner. Now, David, you have, I know, the football priest hat. You have the face mask. So what I'm saying is, here's your options. The orange hat is gone. It's going to Big Kev in Florida. But this is the last of its kind. If you want this hat, never worn before, this was one of like 12 hats that were made up by my friend Ray Roybal for MHH. If you want this hat, just let me know, and you'll be the proud owner of a very rare and unique hat. It's flex fit though. So if that's not your cup of tea, or you don't want that, just go to the merch store, pick something out, let us know what it is, shoot us an email, and it's yours, my friend. So thank you. Gang, that's got to do it for today's episode of the Huddle Up podcast. Oh, BG, back in.
Thank you, Brian.
Says, I'm back working again. I'm expecting 11-5. I believe lock is the real deal. And by the way, BG has always been a diehard supporter of the podcast. He owns this individual record for the largest individual super chat all time. And he's in every stream, whether he's super chatting or not. We're talking to him. We're getting his thoughts. And so we're happy to hear, of course, Brian, that you're back working again. And 11-5, I'm seeing that now. I want to see what takes place in camp. We're going to have one more prediction before we actually have the season. Zach and I will go on record. This will be the one we want you guys to hold us accountable to. But the way too early prediction for me was 11-5, Zach.
Yeah, in terms of expecting a record, I'm expecting, not hoping for or wishing for, I'm expecting at least 9-7 this year. They go 7-9 last year, and they have talent improvement, coaching improvement, lock in his first full season, second season overall. I'm expecting 9 wins at a minimum. It could be 10-6, could be 11-5, but I'm with you, Brian. Chad and I both are. Drew Lock is the real deal, and he will prove that this season.
All right, gang. See, this is what I'm talking about. Bookmark your website, Mundungus from Zeus McPeak himself. All right, guys, we have to get out of here for tonight. We went a little bit long. But thanks to each and every one of you for joining us here tonight on the Huddle Up podcast. Sundays are just always so much fun for Zach and I. Yeah. We're going to be back in the saddle, though, tomorrow night, Monday. Hopefully, who knows? Maybe we'll have some news, some movement on the negotiations between the players and the league. Only time will tell. But in the meantime, of course, you're subscribed on YouTube. Of course, you're following us on Facebook. Of course, you're following on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. Make sure you're also following the podcast on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. And whatever you do, make sure you're following my partner here, my fellow football priest, Zack Kelberman at Kelberman, NFL, myself at Chad and Jensen. And then also John Buona Beast. He doesn't go by Buona Beast on Twitter. It's at John, JON, KAYMHH. Follow him there as well. Zach, have a great start to your week, bro.
You as well, Chad, and we're going to get some news this week because rookies will be reporting and training camp is getting underway. We're right at the finish line, the light at the end of the tunnel. We're right there. We don't know what it's going to be like just yet, what camp is going to look like, practices, but there's going to be some sort of news and momentum for things to get done. I'm looking forward to this week, Chad, for the pod.
Amen. A reminder, as Buona puts in here, milehighhuddle.com for more content. We got written articles, videos, community, the conversation. If you want to keep it going, follow us over. As soon as the lights go off on these live streams, that's where we're hanging out all day long, is at milehighhuddle.com. So come over there, engage in the comment section, engage in the community. We want to hear from you there as well. So thanks again for joining us, everybody. Good night, BG. Good night to all of you. Mile High salute to our Super Chat superstars. For Zach, for John, I'm Chad Jensen. We'll talk to you again same time tomorrow night, Monday.